The raging competition for top bodybuilding titles continues. To win these days means prestige, honor, and acceptance as an athlete. Among the pros, it also means cash. As in many other sports, bodybuilding has offered the black athlete a way to prosperity. Among the early successes in the sport was Leroy Colbert, who parlayed his fame into a successful chain of nutrition centers on the East Coast. More recently, black stars like Robbie Robinson, Roy Callender, and Chris Dickerson have begun to reap a green harvest from bodybuilding competitions, seminars, and mail-order businesses. Every race has its supermen, and at the moment, the elite black bodybuilders are standing up to the best of the white athletes. Color distinctions do not enter into the battle on the posing platform. However, it's muscle that counts. Yet beyond skin color, basic differences do exist between the white and black physique. Through anthropometry, the study of human body measurements, especially on a comparative basis, we can see what these differences are. The following tables were prepared by David P. Willoughby, one of the world's leading anthropometrists. In the first table, he gives the skeletal measurements of a typical proportioned white and a typical proportioned black, both being 5 foot 8 inches in height. The final column expresses the black person's measurements as a percentage of the white person's measurements. From the above measurements, a number of differences are evident. Blacks compared to whites have relatively longer legs, particularly from the knee down, shorter torsos, longer arms, especially the forearms, longer hands and feet, broader shoulders, shallower chest, and narrower waist and hips. In the past, it was felt these differences in body structure made black athletes superior in events like sprinting and jumping. It's now believed that any such differences in athletic ability are attributed to the degree of training and the individual's athletic aptitude rather than differences in physique. In the matter of muscle mass, the black athlete and white athlete, when equally well trained, are almost on a par with the black athlete having a slight edge. The table below gives the average girth measurements of a series of typical weight-trained athletes 5 foot 10 in height from both races. Again, the third column gives the black measurement as a percentage of the white measurement. These percentages show exactly how much larger or smaller a typical black bodybuilder is compared to a typical white bodybuilder of the same height. From these measurements, it's evident that the main difference between the white and black athletes in muscular development is that black athletes tend to have relatively broader shoulders, smaller waists, and larger thighs. Most of the black measurements are a trifle larger, but the bone thickness in the two races is almost the same, being 1% greater among blacks. But while the waist and upper pelvis in blacks is significantly narrower, the hip width is practically the same in the two races. This means that blacks tend to have more of a taper between the waist and the hip, as well as between the chest and the waist. While the hip girth among blacks is greater, the hip width is about the same in both races. This means that the fore and aft depth of the black athlete's hips, buttocks, must be proportionately greater. Also, there is some evidence that the thighs of the black bodybuilders are proportionally deeper from front to back, which accounts for the relatively greater thigh girth. The girth of the neck, upper arms, chest, and calves is slightly greater among blacks. Usually the tendons of the calf muscle in the black athlete are longer in comparison to calf muscle length. This gives the calf the typical high up, long-shinned appearance. There appears to be a tendency for the black calf to be narrower and more oval-shaped in cross-section. This would conform with the greater fore and aft depth of the thigh. Mainly because of the greater length of the clavicular bones, the black athlete tends to have broader shoulders. There does not seem to be much muscle tendon difference in the arms. It may be that in the upper limbs, the two races are more or less identical. Clearly, there are some physiological differences between the two races, but the type of muscular development resulting from today's modern, high-powered training methods pays scarce attention to such minor differences. The more you see of whites like Zane, Menser, and Viator, and blacks like Robinson, Dickerson, and Callender, the more difficult it becomes to evaluate the muscular differences between the two races. It's getting to be as hard to judge a contest as it is to win one.